Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. Of course, that's Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, this piece of legislation was all the hubbub here in the YouTubeverse a few days ago. Everyone having a complete conniption fit. Yeah, of course, I'm talking about the GoSafe Act. Now, what we're going to do today, since we've had a couple of days to read through it, digest it, and talk to some people who really understand the mechanics of how firearms really function and all that, what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of break it down for you, give it to you in simple little English so you can understand what this bill does if it actually was enacted into law. And then we also have to have the important discussion about what is the likelihood that this thing could actually pass into legislation. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's geek out on the GoSafe Act. Same pile of crap, different name. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Well, we are talking about the gas-operated semi-automatic firearms exclusion act, or GoSafe Act, which is being sponsored by Senator Angus King out of Maine, as well as Senator Martin Heinrich out of New Mexico. Now, I know a lot of other people have already beat me to the punch here with this video. I had an opportunity to actually sit down and read the entire bill. It has not yet been assigned a number. So since this is a Senate bill, this is only listed as this right now. Now, it's a good thing that they're going to have to add numbers, because if it was letters, I would probably add these three letters right here, because that's exactly what this bill is. Now, let me just break this down for you in the most simplistic terms. This is a bill that bans all semi-automatic rifles. This is an assault weapon ban, as well as other types of firearms that we typically see in states like California and Illinois and New Jersey and Washington State. The big difference here, though, is that rather than banning these firearms based upon all their scary features and how they look, or their name, make, and model, these instead are being banned based upon the internal mechanisms of the firearm. But the thing to understand is that the internal mechanism that exists in these types of firearms exists in all of these firearms. So what this really is, this would be like the United States government saying, we're not banning pickup trucks, but we are going to ban all four-wheeled vehicles that happen to have a large bed behind the passenger compartment. That's exactly what they're doing. Or we're not going to ban gas-burning cars, but we're going to ban any engine that operates on internal combustion. Now, if enacted into legislation, a gas-operated firearm would include all of the following: a long-stroke piston where gas is vented from the barrel to a piston that is mechanically fixed to the bolt group and moves to cycle the action. B, a short-stroke piston where gas is vented from the barrel to a piston that moves separately from the bolt so that the energy is imparted through a gas piston to cycle the action. C, a system that traps and vents gas from either the barrel or the chamber to directly strike or impinge the bolt, bolt carrier, or slide assembly to unlock and cycle the action. D, a hybrid system that combines elements of a system described in subparagraph C with a system described in subparagraph A or B to capture gas vented from the barrel to cycle the action. E, a blowback operated system that directly utilizes the expanding gases of the ignited propellant powder acting on the cartridge case to drive the breech block or breech bolt rearward. Or F, a recoil operated system that utilizes the recoil force to unlock the breech bolt and then to complete the cycle of extracting, ejecting, and reloading. Now, I know that when you take a look at those last two definitions, that absolutely positively describes how every single semi-automatic handgun works. There is an exception in the statute for handguns, which is the only positive thing that I am going to say about this horrific piece of legislation. Now, in addition to basically banning all semi-automatic rifles. And again, like I said, in the state of California, state of Washington, state of Illinois, the way they've done it is they got a huge list of makes and models, and they're all automatically banned. And then they also have what we call the catch-all phrase, which is a semi-automatic centerfire rifle, which accepts a detachable magazine and has any one of the following components. And then they list just about any type of component that you can conceivably find on an AR or AK platform, and the existence of that makes the firearm a banned weapon. But this piece of legislation would do far, far more, because it would also ban the commercial sale of any high-capacity magazine, or what we like to call standard capacity magazine. So in reality, a federal magazine limitation would be at 10 rounds if this bill became law. And then, in reaction to the ATF's absolutely failed efforts to regulate forced reset and wide open triggers, if enacted into legislation, the GoSafe Act would significantly redefine automatic weapon or machine gun. And rather than basing it on a single function of the trigger, which has been the downfall for ATF's enforcement efforts on Operation Reticent Recall, it would instead amend to add rate of fire. The new definition, if enacted into law, would read, "It shall be unlawful for any person to import, sell, manufacture, transfer, receive, or possess in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce a firearm, device, or combination of parts described in subparagraphs A through H, knowing or having reasonable cause to believe that 1. Materially increases the rate of fire of the firearm, or 2. Approximates the action or rate of fire of a machine gun." And then they further carve out the illegality this way: "The device, part, or combination of parts which is designed and functions to materially increase the rate of fire of the semi-automatic firearm by eliminating the need for the operator of the firearm to make a separate movement for each individual function of the trigger." Now, if enacted into legislation, there is a grandfathering clause, so any of you who own any one of these scary firearms would, at least for now, be allowed to keep it. And unlike the state of Illinois, the federal government apparently is not going to make you register yours. I know a lot of you, when you first read the definitions and then you try to take a look at what Senator King here has on his webpage, which is this goofy little flow chart that makes absolutely no sense, it does say that if you have a semi-automatic handgun, that would be exempted, even though despite the fact that when we read what the definitions of a gas-operated system is, it clearly encompasses just about any format of a semi-automatic handgun. One of the exceptions, however, to the banned weapons in this bill is a single or double action semi-automatic handgun that uses recoil to cycle the action of the handgun. Oh, and in addition to the federal magazine ban, yeah, there would be a grandfathering clause, but you would have to serialize the magazines. Oh, and they could never be transferred to another person. Oh, and the senators thought of everything. They've even come up with a way to take funds from another area so that what? Well, yeah, we could do a government buyback of these horribly scary gas-operated semi-automatic firearms. But then in perhaps what would be a codification of the most abusive use of discretionary power. According to this bill, if any firearm manufacturer wants to produce a new firearm and make it available in the United States market, well, the Attorney General will need to see the complete design, and only the Attorney General can approve whether or not that could go to the market. I'm not joking. The legislation specifically states, for purposes of carrying out Section 922V, not later than 180 days after the enactment of this section, the Attorney General, acting through the Director of the ATF, shall publish and update a list of gas-operated semi-automatic firearms in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce that are subject to the prohibition in Section 922V. Any semi-automatic firearm designed on or after the date of enactment of this section shall be required to have an approval under this subsection prior to the manufacture in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce of such firearm for sale to civilians. That's right. This piece of legislation would require all firearm manufacturers to get the Attorney General's approval before they could start selling their product. And in order to get that approval, this is what a manufacturer would have to show to the Attorney General under this bill. A detailed description of the specifications and operations of the firearm. B, a physical sample of the firearm. C, any patent applications for the firearm. D, marketing materials and plans. E, an explanation of why the firearm should not be subject to the prohibition under Section 922V. Yeah, you see, the burden then would be on the manufacturer to prove the lawfulness of that firearm. And there's more, including F, a description of any features that prevent modification of the firearms. And G, any other information the Attorney General shall require. And then, after you've done all of that, the Attorney General has up to 240 days to approve that design. So to the two senators sponsoring this bill, congratulations on coming up with a really, really neat name for what is otherwise an absolutely unconstitutional and terrible assault weapon ban. This is really no different than any of the legislation we've seen in other states. You've just come up with a different way of labeling it. But on top of that, and this is what you need to be aware of, America, is this bill does much, much more. It would also create a federal national magazine limitation and would give your Attorney General the power to approve or disapprove any new firearm designs before they go to market in the United States. The piece of legislation does not have a number yet. It will be assigned one. When it is, we will let you know. Right now, it's called the GoSafe Act. We'll link it up down below so you could read this unconstitutional pile of crap for yourself. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington Gun Law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is right down there in the description box as well. Now, in the meantime, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.